From the gritty streets of New York to the intense courtrooms that kept viewers on the edge of their seats, Law and Order dominated television from 1990 to 2010, with its unforgettable mix of crime drama and justice. But what about the stars who made the show iconic? Where are they now in 2025? Some became household names in Hollywood landing roles you might not expect, while others quietly stepped away from the spotlight, pursuing completely different paths. In this video, we'll uncover the surprising twists, career changes, and personal stories of the cast-sharing updates that will shock, delight, and even tug at the heartstrings of longtime fans. Don't miss the inside scoop on what really happened to the legendary faces of Law and Order. Jerry Orbach was born on October 20th, 1935, in the Bronx, New York, and joined Law and Order in 1992 at age 57 as Detective Lenny Briscoe, a role that would cement his status as one of television's most beloved figures. Briscoe's sardonic wit, street-smart intuition, and haunted past mirrored not only the archetype of a seasoned NYPD detective, but also reflected Orbach's own tenacity after decades of navigating the unpredictable entertainment industry. Orbach's childhood was marked by hardship. Growing up in a working-class family, he experienced financial insecurity and a series of personal losses that instilled in him a tough exterior and a knack for humor as a shield. These early experiences shaped the depth and authenticity he brought to Briscoe, a character whose moments of vulnerability and biting sarcasm resonated deeply with viewers. Orbach's career was equally complex. A Broadway star with multiple Tony nominations, he struggled at times to transition to screen acting, encountering both critical setbacks and periods of being overlooked for major roles. Off-camera, Orbach's life had its shadows. He was known for an occasional temper on set, a penchant for gambling, and conflicts with co-stars over creative choices, though these incidents were often hushed in public. Perhaps the most jarring episode came posthumously when his estate, valued around $10 million, became the center of a bitter inheritance dispute. His sons accused his second wife, Elaine Cancilla, of undue influence and financial maneuvering that allegedly left them cut out of significant portions of the inheritance, sparking a highly publicized legal and emotional battle. Jerry Orbach passed away on December 28, 2004, in Manhattan at the age of 69 due to prostate cancer, leaving behind a complicated legacy of triumph and turmoil, a storied career that blended Broadway brilliance with television immortality, and a family saga that added a stark, almost cinematic layer to the real-life narrative of a man who lived intensely, loved deeply, and left the world both charmed and unsettled. Fred Thompson, born August 19, 1942 in Sheffield, Alabama, joined Law and Order in 2002 at the age of 60 as District Attorney Arthur Branch, a role that perfectly mirrored his real-life persona as a Southern conservative lawyer and former U.S. Senator. Branch's stern, no-nonsense approach to law, combined with a sharp rhetorical skill, reflected Thompson's ability to command both political and entertainment spaces with ease, giving viewers the sense that the lines between character and actor often blurred. Thompson's early life in the South exposed him to the cultural contrasts and social hierarchies that later informed his on-screen authority. Yet his path was not without professional and personal pitfalls. Before Law and Order, Thompson experienced career volatility, including public scrutiny over political missteps and high-profile media appearances, as well as tensions in Hollywood, where his assertive style occasionally led to conflict with colleagues. Off-screen, his life contained private storms, a complicated marriage to Jerry Thompson, allegations of mismanagement surrounding his $8 million estate, and posthumous lawsuits by adult children questioning last-minute changes to his will and potential abuses of power of attorney. His personal life was further complicated by intense media attention and the pressures of balancing a public persona with private challenges, from health struggles to the navigation of a blended family with sometimes fraught relationships. Thompson died on November 1, 2015 in Nashville at age 73 from lymphoma, leaving behind not just a substantial estate, but also the intrigue and controversy that often accompany figures who straddle the worlds of politics and entertainment. His career remains a case study in charisma, authority, and the subtle interplay between public accomplishment and private complexity, illustrating how even a polished exterior can mask a life filled with intense struggle, resilience, and occasional scandal. Stephen Hill, born Solomon Krakowski on February 24, 1922, in Seattle, Washington, took on the role of District Attorney Adam Schiff in 1990 at the age of 68, portraying a character whose solemn authority and unwavering moral compass provided the ethical backbone of law and order. Schiff's methodical courtroom presence and unflinching adherence to justice were magnified by Hill's own life experiences, which included a childhood marked by hardship and a deep immersion in Orthodox Jewish traditions. Growing up in a family that emphasized religious discipline and scholarly rigor, Hill faced early challenges of social alienation and cultural pressure, fostering in him a resilience that would inform the gravitas of his on-screen persona. His career path was unconventional. Though talented, he often clashed with Hollywood norms, most famously resigning from Mission Impossible due to conflicts between production schedules and Sabbath observance. This rigidity sometimes made him difficult to work with, and while it protected his principles, it also limited certain opportunities and led to rumors of professional tension. Hill never became a tabloid fixture, but insiders noted a private side prone to solitude and exacting standards traits that occasionally alienated collaborators but ultimately reinforced the integrity of his craft. He navigated the industry with a careful balance, avoiding financial excesses, but also cultivating a modest net worth that reflected a lifetime dedicated more to artistic principle than material accumulation. Stephen Hill died on August 23, 2016 in New York at the age of 94, leaving behind a legacy defined by disciplined conviction and the quietly commanding presence of a man whose personal convictions were as firm and exacting as the fictional justice he dispensed. Paul Sorvino, born on April 13, 1939, he played Sergeant Phil Serrata in 1991 at age 52. His Serrata was the quiet stabilizer of early law and order precinct life, a measured paternal presence who contrasted with the show's sharper tempers and made viewers trust the badge even when cases blurred the moral lines. His delivery carried the weight of someone who'd seen both the poetry and the brutality of human choices. Sorvino's own origin story came from an immigrant-tinged Brooklyn household, where art and obligation warred. He trained as a voice student for decades, clawed his way up from Broadway to screen, and kept a private devotion to opera and sculpture that few casting directors bothered to respect when typecasting his gravely baritone into mob patriarchs. Career highs were durable. Goodfellas Nixon stage acclaim, but he stepped away from Law & Order after a single season, citing the grueling TV grind and a desire to protect his singing voice and artistic bandwidth. It was an early, deliberate exit rather than a flameout. Rumors and gossip rarely stuck to Sorvino's name. He cultivated dignity, even when family and health troubles crept in later years. But his public persona masked a ferocious work ethic and a sometimes prickly protectiveness toward his children, notably his outspoken relationships with Mira and Michael, which occasionally spilled into headlines. In his later life, Sorvino battled health issues and chose quieter days, eventually dying of natural causes on July 25, 2022, at 83, at the Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville, Florida. At death, his financial legacy was reported by industry trackers at roughly the low tens of millions a lifetime of character work. Occasional directing and entrepreneurial ventures that left a steady, if not ostentatious estate, and a reputation as a complex man who loved art more than applause. Dennis Farina, born on February 29, 1944, he played Detective Joe Fontana in 2004 at age 60. His Joe Fontana was the kind of cop who smelled rot in the system and made viewers root for a scuffed boot honesty that could cut both ways. On screen, he radiated a gruff, sardonic authority that softened just enough around victims to make his bluntness feel like protection rather than cruelty. Behind that blue-collar charisma was a childhood carved out of Old Town Chicago, the youngest of 7, in an Italian-American family where money was tight, pride was thicker than the coats in winter, and sensitivity got tucked away behind jokes and upbringing that taught him to hide hurts and to speak through action. His career arc reads like a noir script, an 18-year stint in the Chicago Police Department, a late but explosive pivot into acting as Michael Mann's on-set consultant-turned-actor, and then the strain of being pigeonholed as either a cop or a mobster. There were missed leads and bitter rejections early on, and later, a public stumble that felt almost cinematic. In May 2008, he was arrested for carrying a loaded .122 caliber pistol through LAX security, pleaded no contest, and accepted 2 years probation, a very public reminder that the line between his past and his persona could snag him. Personal life offered more texture than tabloids. Marriages, divorces, 3 sons, and long-term relationships peppered a life that never quite settled into quiet. Hard knocks followed health struggles culminating in a pulmonary embolism that killed him on July 22, 2013, at 69 in Scottsdale, Arizona, and left fans and colleagues mourning the authentic rumpled presence he'd brought to crime dramas. His estate was modest by Hollywood standards. Public estimates of his net worth at death range in the low millions, a working actor's trove of residuals, modest property, and memorabilia rather than mega mansions. The financial footprint he left behind reflected a life of steady work, occasional tabloid headlines, and a late-blooming fame that never forgot its roots. Sam Waterston, born on November 15, 1940, he played Executive ADA Jack McCoy in 1994 at age 54. His Jack McCoy is television's irresistible moral bulldog. Fiery, exhausting, vulnerable. A prosecutor who bent rules with the earnest conviction that the law should serve justice and not ceremony, which made audiences argue with him, admire him, and sometimes fear the man they cheered. Waterston's upbringing, New England academic parents, a Yale education, and early theater discipline produced an actor who turned restraint into power, and his childhood and early adult years carried the quiet privations and exacting standards of a family where achievement mattered more than ease. The career path was neither meteoric nor scandal-strewn stage credibility, an Oscar-nominated turn in The Killing Fields, and then the long marriage to the role of McCoy that brought triumphs and the slow erosion of private life under public microscope. He has had domestic stability after a youthful divorce, marrying former model Lynn Louisa Woodruff in 1976 and raising 4 children, several of whom followed into creative work. Yet even this solidity was punctuated by the typical strains of long hours, artistic obsession, and occasional controversies over on-screen ethical choices that fueled debates rather than police investigations. Waterston's off-screen battles have been more public service than salacious environmental activism arrests at climate protests alongside peers and outspoken political moments that show a man who trades tabloid fodder for causes. He remains alive and active in 2025 at age 84 still respected on stage and screen. Public estimates place his net worth in the mid to high millions. Widely reported figures vary, consisting of acting residuals, royalties from decades on a flagship network, drama, modest real estate holdings, and a legacy of cultural capital that will likely outlive the exact dollar value of his estate. Epatha Merkerson, born November 28, 1952 in Saginaw, Michigan, stepped into Hollywood as a determined force shaped by a childhood of scarcity and resilience. Growing up as the youngest of 5 in a working-class family, she faced emotional neglect from her largely absent father and the heavy burden of observing her mother labor tirelessly to keep the family afloat. School was no refuge. She endured constant ridicule for her ambition and intellect, learning early to shield her emotions and mask vulnerability, a skill that would later translate into her powerful on-screen presence. In 1993, at the age of 41, Merkerson joined Law & Order as Lieutenant Anita Van Buren, becoming the show's longest-serving cast member. Van Buren's character resonated because she was authoritative yet empathetic, commanding respect, without losing humanity, a reflection of Merkerson's own life-honed resilience. Despite her professional success, her journey was far from smooth. Auditions were fraught, with typecasting her talent often undervalued due to systemic bias in Hollywood, and she navigated an industry where roles for women of color were scarce and fiercely contested. Off-screen, Merkerson battled health challenges, including a serious struggle with smoking, which she quit in the 1990s, turning her energy toward advocacy for diabetes and lung cancer awareness, showing the same discipline and moral commitment she brought to Van Buren. She managed to avoid personal scandals in an industry riddled with gossip and controversy, maintaining a reputation for integrity and professionalism. Her personal life remained private, though whispers suggest she faced the usual Hollywood tensions and sacrifices, balancing ambition with familial responsibilities and public expectations. At 72, Merkerson continues to work selectively in television and theater, her net worth estimated at $11 million, derived from decades of disciplined artistry and careful career management, leaving an indelible mark on television while quietly commanding respect off-screen. Benjamin Bratt was born on December 16, 1963, and first appeared as Detective Ray Curtis in Law & Order in 1995 at the age of 32. Curtis was portrayed as a devout Catholic with an unwavering moral compass, a man whose ethical intensity often collided with the murky compromises of the New York City police system. Audiences were captivated by his tension-filled interactions with colleagues, his quiet struggle to reconcile justice with conscience, and the vulnerability that occasionally peeked through his stoic exterior. Off-screen, Bratt's life mirrored some of this intensity. Born to a Peruvian mother, a social activist who had been part of the Alcatraz occupation, and a working-class father, he experienced a childhood filled with instability and constant adaptation. Bratt has spoken of growing up in a household that combined strong cultural pride with financial struggle, forcing him to navigate early experiences of neglect and social teasing, while learning to conceal deep emotions to avoid appearing weak. His career trajectory was far from smooth. Though he gained early recognition on Law & Order, Bratt experienced near misses in Hollywood, including projects that fell through due to studio politics, typecasting, or contractual disputes. He weathered scandalous headlines, notably a high-profile relationship with Julia Roberts that ended abruptly and fueled gossip about his temper and controlling tendencies. Despite this, he later married Talisa Soto, became a dedicated father, and carved a niche in activism, particularly advocating for Native American rights. His personal life included moments of intense pressure from family health crises, to the challenge of balancing fame with privacy, yet he remained professionally productive, taking roles in films like Miss Congeniality Coco and the Andor series. Today, at age 61 in 2025, Bratt maintains a respected career, his net worth estimated at $12 million, comprising acting salaries, residuals, and production credits. Though he has occasionally courted controversy, his life tells a story of resilience, a man shaped by early deprivation and social scrutiny, navigating both moral and professional challenges while cultivating influence and maintaining a family legacy. Jesse L. Martin, born January 18, 1969, in Rocky Mount, Virginia, grew up in circumstances that instilled both adaptability and toughness. Born Jesse Lamont Watkins, he experienced the early disruption of his parents' divorce and took on the surname of his stepfather, a symbolic step toward forging his own identity amid instability. His upbringing, punctuated by relocations and economic hardship, forced him to navigate a world where resilience and streetwise intelligence were essential for survival. Martin's path into acting was fueled by an early love of performance and a recognition that theater could provide both expression and escape. He trained rigorously, joining John Houseman's The Acting Company, performing across regional theaters before achieving his breakthrough on Broadway as Tom Collins in Rent-A-Role that established him as a compelling and emotionally accessible actor. In 1999, at 30, he transitioned to television with Law and Order as Detective Ed Green, a character whose combination of intuition, empathy, and toughness mirrored aspects of Martin's own life experiences. His career, though decorated, was not free from friction. Martin's strong sense of artistic autonomy sometimes created tension with producers and fellow actors, and navigating the Hollywood system presented ongoing challenges in typecasting and creative satisfaction. Personal life remained discreet, though speculation about private romantic entanglements occasionally surfaced, as Martin carefully maintained boundaries between his public persona and personal world. His advocacy for arts education and LGBTQ+ rights demonstrates a commitment to social causes alongside artistic endeavors. Despite moments of career uncertainty, including rumors of replacement and the pressures of sustained television visibility, Martin's perseverance has yielded stability. At 56, he enjoys continued professional opportunities, balancing stage and screen with a net worth estimated at $8 million, reflecting both his talent and his disciplined approach to navigating an unpredictable industry while avoiding scandal. Michael Moriarty was born on April 5, 1941, and began portraying Executive ADA Ben Stone in Law and Order in 1990 at the age of 49. Stone's character was defined by rigid morality and a principled approach to justice, often facing ethical dilemmas that tested his relationships with colleagues and his own inner sense of right and wrong. Moriarty's own life often reflected these tensions. Raised in a household where intellectual rigor was prized, he developed an early understanding of discipline and a drive toward excellence, which fueled both his theater and film successes. Yet this same intensity produced conflicts that would haunt his career: a mercurial temperament, clashes with producers, and increasingly publicized disputes culminated in a fiery, very public departure from Law and Order when he accused the U.S. Attorney General of censorship and engaged in legal threats that scandalized colleagues and audiences alike. In later interviews, Moriarty admitted to struggles with alcoholism, describing himself as a very bad drunk, and relocating to Canada to escape Hollywood pressures. His personal life has been shaped by these choices, as well as a tendency toward public forthrightness that has sometimes alienated peers and made collaborations difficult. Despite these controversies, Moriarty earned accolades including Emmy and Tony Awards, and carved a niche as a respected performer and commentator. Professionally, the greatest failure of his career was the estrangement from the show that defined him, a rupture that cost him mainstream momentum and reinforced his image as unpredictable yet uncompromising in principle. Today, at age 84 in 2025, Moriarty lives in Canada, balancing artistic projects with relative seclusion, his estimated net worth at around $5 million drawn from decades of performance royalties, selective real estate investments, and writing. His life narrative combines brilliance and volatility, an actor whose talent was undeniable but whose personality, principled yet uncompromising, ensured that his story remained one of both acclaim and cautionary intrigue. Elizabeth Rome was born on April 28, 1973. She played Assistant District Attorney Serena Sutherland in 2001 at age 28. In the show, she was written as bright, morally inquisitive, and quietly politicized the kind of ADA who forced Jack McCoy into uneasy conversations about mercy and social context. But her exit became the thing everyone remembers, a last-second out-of-left-field coming-out line that read as both a dramatic sledgehammer and a narrative dodge, leaving viewers furious that a hinted identity was weaponized only as a shock-value sign-off rather than a developed arc. Rome's childhood is revealed in her own writing and interviews as uneven rather than idyllic. Born in Dusseldorf to a German father and American mother, moved to New York as a baby, and raised amid parental divorce and the pressures of a single-parent household. She has written frankly about an untraditional upbringing that fed both her hunger to perform and a tendency to mask private pain. Her career contains crunchy highs and jagged lows, from playing a tortured detective on Angel to joining Law & Order and later landing character work in films like American Hustle. But her professional narrative also includes public flares. Critics sometimes singled out her Law & Order work for being flat, and the abruptness of Serena's final scene produced one of the most talked-about creative missteps in procedural history, a moment Rome later defended as part of a splashy exit she discussed with creator Dick Wolf. Offset, the drama has been quieter but public, multiple high-profile relationships, a marriage and divorce, and a very public IVF journey she catalogued in her memoir, and interviews a candid account of infertility that opened doors for discourse but also exposed her private life to scrutiny. She survived a notable equestrian accident that curtailed professional riding and has reinvented herself behind the camera, directing TV projects while balancing motherhood. As of 2025, she is alive at 52, still active in film and television, and her estimated net worth sits in the low millions, derived from acting pay, a published memoir, directing fees, and ongoing residuals rather than blockbuster payouts. Carolyn McCormick was born on September 19, 1959, and made her debut as Dr. Elizabeth Olivet in Law & Order in 1991 at the age of 32. Olivet's character served as a steady, empathetic counterbalance to the often cold and procedural world of law enforcement and prosecution. A psychologist who challenged assumptions, provided moral reflection, and quietly guided both audience perception and character decision-making. McCormick's own upbringing in Midland, Texas, was marked by determination in the face of limited resources. Scholarship opportunities and rigorous conservatory training shaped her early ambitions, while personal challenges taught her discipline, self-reliance, and the value of resilience. Her career, while steady and respected, faced its share of obstacles, from repeated typecasting to missed opportunities for blockbuster breakthroughs. McCormick cultivated a private life, partnering with actor Byron Jennings, shielding her family from public scrutiny, and prioritizing craft over celebrity. This focus, while protective, did not shield her entirely from industry hardships, uneven employment, Professional compromises and the perennial frustrations of being a recurring but not lead performer tested her resolve. She also navigated periods of financial pressure, balancing modest but consistent acting income with stage work voiceovers and narration, which built a sustainable but relatively low-profile net worth currently estimated around $3 million. Today, at age 65 in 2025, McCormick continues active engagement in theater voice work and television, sustaining a career characterized by quiet diligence, professional integrity, and moral steadiness. Her story offers a compelling contrast to the more sensational arcs of her co-stars, a life dedicated to the art of performance resilience in the face of industry volatility and the careful management of both personal and professional legacies, maintaining relevance without succumbing to the pitfalls of tabloid fame. Alana de la Garza was born on June 18, 1976. She originated the role of Assistant District Attorney Connie Rubirosa in 2006 at age 30. Rubirosa was written as the quiet moral fulcrum of the courtroom's steady, empathetic, legally meticulous, and often the conscience that corrected overzealous prosecutors, a character who quietly earned audience trust by refusing melodrama and instead choosing precision and empathy. De la Garza's early life reads like a resilience blueprint. Raised in El Paso, she won local pageants, studied at UTEP, and even worked with special needs students before pivoting into acting, a background that explains her grounded public persona and her reputation for professionalism. Her career arc is disciplined rather than scandal-driven, steady guest turns on genre television, a soap-to-network climb, and recurring roles on procedural staples like CSI Miami Criminal Minds spin-offs and FBI that kept her in the working actor's sweet spot. Unlike many of her peers, De la Garza has avoided headline-making controversies. Her public difficulties have been the ordinary kind of personal juggling that actors endure, career lulls, pilots that don't go, and the work-family tightrope rather than explosive scandal. Married to writer Michael Roberts since 2008, with 2 children, she has crafted an image of privacy and persistence. The most notable failures on her resume are business-as-usual industry setbacks, short-lived series, canceled pilots, not personal disgrace. Today, at 49, she remains an active presence on network television, trading the flash of tabloid drama for steady craft, and her estimated net worth is modest but respectable for a long-running television actor, reflecting years of recurring roles, residuals, and steady work rather than headline-making payday deals. Angie Harmon was born on August 10, 1972. She stepped into the Law and Order universe in 1998 as ADA Abby Carmichael at age 26. Carmichael was a bruising conservative legal bolt of energy, tough, blunt, and unapologetically combative, a role that positioned Harmon as the archetypal hard-charging prosecutor and carved her into the public imagination as a TV law and order warrior. Her childhood and rise read like a glossy origin story. Discovered as a teenager, a 17 contest winner turned international model, she parlayed runway success into acting, and her early industry life was hardly starry but practical, with work ethic baked into her transition from fashion to film and TV. Harmon's career has been a catalog of big wins and a few flameouts after the Law and Order visibility. She landed leading roles, and then the franchise-defining Jane Rizzoli on Rizzoli and Isles, which cemented her bankability. She has also weathered canceled pilots and short-lived series, the ordinary setbacks actors dread. Her personal tabloid moments are well documented: a surprise on-air engagement to Jason C. Horn, a high-profile marriage that produced 3 daughters, and then a widely reported separation in 2014, followed by a later engagement that fizzled. She also participated in Allure's annual Naked issue in 2008, a public moment that mingled empowerment and optics and became fodder for gossip columns. Harmon has been candid about adopting conservative views in Hollywood, and while she's occasionally drawn chatter for political candor, she has avoided the kinds of career-ending scandals that ruin reputations. Rather, her dark moments have been the private collisions of family strain, interrupted projects, and the vulnerability of being a female lead in a ratings-driven industry. Financially, Harmon sits at the high end of this trio. Years of modeling a long-running hit show and steady film and TV work have produced a multi-million-dollar cash, reported in the tens of millions built from acting paychecks, endorsement work, and residuals that give her a comfortably wealthy status compared with many peers. She is now 53 in 2025. Leslie Hendricks, born June 5, 1960 in San Francisco, California, forged a career defined by precision professionalism and quiet tenacity. Raised in a household that valued education, yet punctuated by emotional strictness and subtle familial tension, Hendricks learned early to channel her energies into focused, disciplined pursuits. Her formative years involved navigating societal expectations and the pressures of pursuing artistic ambitions in an environment that offered limited guidance and encouragement. Hendricks began acting in regional theater before securing her defining role as medical examiner Dr. Elizabeth Rogers in 1992, a part that spanned multiple Law and Order series and required a meticulous balance of technical knowledge and dramatic subtlety. Rogers was the embodiment of clinical intelligence delivering forensic truths with chilling accuracy, and Hendricks's portrayal resonated because of her ability to imbue the character with subtle humanity beneath the austere exterior. Behind the scenes, Hendricks maintained a largely private existence, deliberately avoiding Hollywood gossip and scandal, though the demands of balancing her professional life with motherhood presented quiet challenges. Her career included periods of slower work conflicts over recognition and the tension of being cast repeatedly in supporting roles, despite her skill forcing her to navigate the frustration of typecasting. Personal life remained intentionally guarded, and while she occasionally shared glimpses of her family life, the full contours of her challenges, balancing expectations, emotional stress, and the rigors of a demanding profession, remained largely unseen. Now 65, Hendricks continues to appear in television and film, her presence respected for both consistency and talent, with a net worth of approximately $4 million accrued from decades of professional diligence. Her story is one of quiet perseverance, of skill and patience, allowing a sustained scandal-free career that commands admiration without the need for public dramatics. Thank you for joining us on this nostalgic journey through classic television history. If you enjoyed learning about the cast of Law and Order and where they are now, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe for more vintage Hollywood retrospectives, and share your thoughts in the comments below. We love hearing your memories and suggestions, so let us know which TV show or movie cast you'd like us to feature next.